farmers union is just my favorite and passion.
Welcome to the Imaginal Roots podcast, where we explore the transformational possibilities and potential that lie within everyone and everything. Through inspiring conversation, we will discover our community roots, our shared connections, and imagine transformative new stories into being. In this episode of Imaginal Roots, Rachel Barissa and I continue our conversation about her work with Golden Sands, Pasture Walks, Wisconsin Farmers Union, the power of regenerative agriculture to transform climate change, and the value of neighbors and community. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and share it with your friends. So besides also having your farm, you work for a place called Golden Sands, and your work is in agriculture, right? And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. I also wanted to give a quick follow-up for Wendell Berry in that, I think everyone should read Wendell Berry, and what is most noteworthy is so much of this stuff was written decades ago and is still, if not more so, pertinent today. My other one is I recently reread Aldo Leopold's Sand County Almanac, and one of the lines from there that's my tag on my email is, and I'm not sure if I'm going to quote it perfectly, is a good farm is one where flora and fauna can coexist. But basically, yeah, a good farm is one where you can be productive while having wildlife. Without losing their existence. I'll have to send it to you. But yeah, my job with Golden Sands, I'm their grazing specialist. So through that position, I write grazing plans for new farmers and existing farmers looking to transition more land into pasture. And that's primarily for NRCS and the EQIP program through them. If anyone is interested in kind of some of these conservation programs and has land, definitely reach out to the county NRCS office. Whether or not you're a farmer, if you're any landowner, they might have some different programs. And then, and my favorite part is coordinating pasture walks. So I did 6 pasture walks.
So what is a pasture walk?
Yeah, I realized that I grew up going on pasture walks and hosting pasture walks. As my parents were some of the first to transition into managed grazing, a lot of this is just kind of second nature to me. But pasture walks are used as an educational tool for people that are interested in managed grazing. So you basically go out to a farmer's pastures, and whether or not we have a speaker or we've had NRCS do the rainfall simulator, which I understated kind of as a valuable tool to show. The rainfall simulator shows like 4 or 5 different systems, and then it'll simulate an inch of rain in 5 minutes, and then they'll have one jar in the front that shows the runoff, and then one jar underneath that'll show what was infiltrated. So that's kind of really neat to see. But yeah, so it's just basically a time to go out and look at someone else's farm, and then kind of ask questions of the group, and it's a lot of it's just chatting and getting advice, because like managed grazing now there's more research, but when managed grazing first kind of came onto the scene in the late 90s, there was no grazing specialists in the state, so they actually were bringing them in from New Zealand to speak and educate farmers on these managed grazing principles and practices. And so pasture walks kind of became like a grassroots educational opportunity for farmers, because it was not a practice that was promoted through, extension and other kind of venues. And so this was a way for farmers to learn from each other. I say as farmers, our greatest resource is each other. And with grazing, it's a lot more sharing notes. A lot of conventional agriculture, you you get bigger and you kind of keep, you keep your notes to yourself much more. The grazing community is very open sourced. And you rely on one another. There's that idea that as farms got bigger and bought each other out, now there's no opportunities to kind of work together or share equipment. Those kind of things that brought us together. Now if you're the lonely person on your big mountain, you got no one else to kind of turn to. So it builds the community.
Okay, so if I have some land and I'm looking for a grazing plan, can you tell me who do I talk to so I can have you help me get a grazing plan?
Well, most often I'm contacted by NRCS offices.
And what is NRCS?
The Natural Resources Conservation Service. It's through USDA, FSA, I think they'd be a division of. And so they're really water and soil. Their focus is addressing resource concerns. I work a lot in the realm of water quality and soil. And so, if a producer was interested in, and managed grazing kind of is, I call it the gold, or not me, but it's called the gold standard by some, in that as far as kind of from an environmental and agricultural system, it addresses more resource concerns than any other practice. And so they promote it heavily. Yeah. So they'll cost share on putting in fencing and water lines, as well as some of the seed costs to get your pastures established. So in my grazing plans, I'll do fence designs and water line designs, and then I do kind of stocking rate calculations.
How does Golden Sands work with NRCS?
So Golden Sands is a nonprofit. So it's kind of works through different grants. The grant that I write these grazing plans under is a National Association of Conservation Districts grant. They're just trying to encourage more people to get more agricultural land and pastures is the primary goal. So that's kind of how my position at Golden Sands is funded.
Yeah, and then you're also involved with Farmers Union, Wisconsin Farmers Union. I guess you're the is it the chapter president for Waupaca and Portage and Wood County? Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct. I know I made a list of all of my kind of positions and duties because I'm also on our FSA county committee as the minority advisor.
What's FSA?
So FSA is the Farm Service Agency. And they are in the same office as NRCS, but they work a lot more with conventional producers and do a lot more of the other agricultural programs, the dairy programs. You're kind of more the crop insurance side of it. So I use my position there to kind of be more informed and educated with what the other farmers in the county that aren't doing grazing are doing and how some of the federal programs kind of impact our area farmers.
And then Farmers Union is, what does Farmers Union do?
Oh, Farmers Union is just my favorite and passion. I guess I was drawn to Farmers Union for the people. There's a lot of people that are doing similar things and kind of have, like I said, the similar passions to me. But the more that I got involved in the organization, I realized, the policy side of it. We all go and vote in November, but it's really what is getting done and the conversations that are being had with our representatives throughout the year that are really where the change is made. So I would look through the Farmers Union policy book, which is their kind of mission statement. I don't have in front of me, but it's not just farmers; it's rural communities is a lot of where they see their service to. So you don't need to be a farmer to be a member, but just having someone.
Yeah, I just pulled up the mission. It says Wisconsin Farmers Union, a member-driven organization, is committed to enhancing the quality of life for family farmers, rural communities, and all people through educational opportunities, cooperative endeavors, and civic engagement. You want to expand on that? You're part of this.
I know. I was going to say that's the kind of leads into all, or kind of sums up all of our conversation we've been having. So I look at my role with that organization as, bringing our voice to the state level, and then now at the national level. So it's a lot. I've gone in, spoken to, listening sessions, and each year they'll have a rural lobby day where they'll set up meetings with our representatives, and we speak to a few different issues. But and I'm on our state policy committee, so we had a 6-hour meeting on Monday. But it's shaping those policies. So if something does come up, we can have someone make a stand for us at the state level.
Well, and also it's that you are making a stand at the national level. I just saw, right?
I'm really excited about this opportunity, and so I'm in full homework mode right now. So I was recently appointed to represent our state, which is a key agricultural state, at the national level as part of the Climate Change Policy Advisory Panel. So it's a 16-person panel, and we will be providing input for national policy on mitigating climate change.
It sounds like an amazing opportunity.
And so I'm taking the role very seriously, in that I don't just represent myself and my farm, that I am representing our entire state. So I've been recently reaching out to some of my old connections at the university, as well as other producers through the Regenerative Farming in Wisconsin group, to get kind of input on policy from them. It's exciting. Normally we'd be flying out to with kids. It'll make logistics a little easier, but it would have been really cool. And the other part that you miss all those side conversations and the building relationships that you would have in in-person meetings when it's just by Zoom. So I feel like from a panel standpoint, it may not be quite ideal, but we'll do our best.
And congratulations for being part of the panel, and I'm sure there'll be interesting things that we will be able to talk about in the future about your climate change policy advisory panel.
Yeah. I'm really excited to be able to bring a lot of that back here too. So not only is it bringing our voices to them, it's bringing what is the conversations and direction of that group back to our group.
Yeah, exactly. And then there are some of my younger friends who are very interested in climate change and climate change action. In fact, I'm actually interested in this resurgence in podcasting because our mutual friend, Kari Espeson's, her daughter, Sophie, did a climate change panel in Waka. And I reached out to Kari and Sophie and I said, would you guys like to do more with this? Would you like to share your story? Would you like to get a podcast going? And that was back I think in March. And we started talking a little bit, but that's kind of the seed for me saying, I need to get more. Saw Sophie yesterday and told her you were on the climate change phase, right? So you and Rachel need to connect because I want to help you amplify your voice and Rachel amplify her voice, especially from a local standpoint. We have such an opportunity to impact climate change on a rural, regional level. If we understand what's going on with agriculture and how transforming to regenerative agriculture can make a difference. You want to share more about?
Yeah, well, I guess kind of my stance is that in the state of Wisconsin, agriculture comprises 40% of the land. And so that's why I'm very passionate, or I believe that we as farmers have this power and responsibility to change practices. There's probably no other land use that impacts climate as much as agriculture. Yeah, so that's why we need to change. Yeah, and I look forward to talking to Sophie. Yeah, we could interview each other.
With this whole effort is to connect you, people like you and people like Sophie and people like me who are interested and have some ability with technology to connect to more people that are maybe outside of your circles. There's this youth climate change movement that, is kind of huge in certain areas, but our other friend Kayla expressed to us in saying, I don't know how to connect into this in my local community. Well, obviously now there's this look at what could be happening with our awareness in regenerative agriculture. It's huge relative to climate change, but do these other people know? So that's a thing that I feel like has a huge opportunity for us.
I just found my notes. I had to address the governor this summer and spoke to that one climate change video I had. So I just found my notes from my speech.
What did you share with the governor? What was important?
I'm going to go with that. Agriculture comprises 40% of land use in Wisconsin and across the state. Most of this is farmed as a net carbon source, and that we have a great deal of power to impact and improve our environment, our soil, water, and air, and rural communities, the nutritional value of the food we produce, and as farmers, our own happiness and quality of life. And then I go on to the advent of synthetic nitrogen and farming systems shifting. But I keep these notes in front of me because that was a powerful moment and, really kind of summarized a lot of what I do and why I do it.
What continues to stoke your passion and inspire you towards greater service in our world?
I don't know, all the people. Again, it's strengthening communities and building connections and enjoying it. I enjoy pretty much, I joke that I say yes to everything, but I do it happily. I enjoy having these conversations and making these connections. Whenever I'm planning one of my events, I also joke that I like it to be like the NASCAR theme. The more different groups, the more partners, the more collaborators, the more voices, the better. With this kind of our Common Roots Rising group, it's understanding, and reducing redundancy. So knowing what everyone else is doing, they'll save time and energy. That's that idea of a well-working community where if we all have what we're good at and we're all working together to do something, it's just more efficient. Yeah, I think, and it just highlights, the skills of each. And, you've brought that up a lot in kind of the planning discussions with this group, but I think that that's just so valuable in a community because we don't all need to do it all.
Right. At least try not to find some helpers that are interested in things. Say, you're interested in something I'm interested in. Let's work together and help each other. What if we dared to create forward from what we really truly want for our reality and our world, and not just based on and fueled by what we don't want? What would you dare to create forward?
I guess, more connections to our land, our food systems, and each other. I kind of always joke about the barter system, and that's that's another one of those passages in that gift of good land, where they, introducing money into, different societies where people can just buy what they need instead of working together. I would love to live in a barter world, which I know isn't possible, but, it's just having everyone that, makes or does something and they take passion and pride in what they do and can share it with others. That idea that you grow and produce, just enough more that you can then trade with others. Just yeah, I guess I just think of, my relationship with my neighbors and stuff like that. And, it's just when you live in a rural community, there's kind of that constant give and take. And that's what brings you together and makes you valuable. Yeah, I'm going to be splitting some wood later and hanging out at my neighbor's cabin. But then they end up giving me syrup or honey, and I give them beef here and there. And it's just, it just makes you feel good. I just think that those connections are just what is good.
But like 2 weeks ago, our friend Missy was, I mean, it's been an interesting year and a challenging year to get enough seeds and get enough supplies. And she's expanding her greenhouse and her growing, and she just moved, and she commented on Facebook that she can't find horseradish roots. And I have some. I don't actually use them all. And I thought, well, I can go see if I can still dig in the ground if it's not frozen and see if I can find some. And I did. And, she came and got some roots for me. And then she asked, well, how much do you want for them? I'm like, nothing. First of all, I wasn't directly using them right now. Secondly, you can put them to use. And thirdly, in the spring, I probably am going to need some more plants from you because you're better at growing plants than I am. And I have lots of room to put plants in. And so it makes so much sense to just do that. And it was super easy for me, and it empowers her to get her horseradish patch started sooner.
Right. And I call it community credit. And I always like to have a little more than I need. Because I know that, by helping someone else out, down the road, that'll come back to me. So yeah, you give freely.
By the way, is your comfrey still growing?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Wow. Yeah, it's frozen now.
And no, it's interesting that you bring up Missy, because I had gotten some wormwood from her, and the two of them are next to each other in front of my house.
The goji plants that I got from her, you got a goji too. The deer loved those. They were gone pretty fast. So then I learned, and I mean, that's such a learning experience because I'm like, oh, I want to grow goji. Missy's got goji this year. That would be really fun when you research this plant. And then you realize the deer like goji. So that means if I am going to grow goji, I'm going to have to put up some kind of barriers for the deer. And, it's always a balance. Even for us, so a summer of 2019, we had a big windstorm that went through here and took down our sumac. And it was like, well, sumac is just whatever. It's, they're brushy weeds for most people, right? But we harvest the flower blossoms for medicine. It's a great cold remedy for the winter. And the tall sumac have the flowers. The short sumac don't. Well, the deer love to top the sumac. So I actually have a fenced, I don't know, it's probably a 50-foot circle to save my sumac. I mean, who does that? But that's what I did because I don't have a sumac sanctuary for my deer, to keep them off from my deer right now. So now, hopefully in another year, they didn't flower this year, but now I have thick sumac patch coming back.
Well, that windstorm, took out, I think I had 22 trees but I will remember that where it was, everyone was helping each other out. It was so many people, and the sound of chainsaws, for that whole next week was just echoing throughout the neighborhood. But I had, someone bring me water. I have another farmer that has a connection with the rural fire department and their water trucks. And so, through having those connections, it just, made my life easier and better. But that was a big kind of bringing our community. I had a bonfire after that because it was right around my birthday. And I, I started having these neighborhood parties each summer. Because when I moved back, I realized that two of my neighbors that lived next door to each other didn't have each other's phone number. And he said, how can you guys have lived next to each other for 10 years without having each other's phone number? And then I realized they didn't have livestock. I need everyone to have my phone number because if my cows get out, they need to get a hold of me. But now each year I have a neighborhood party where I invite everyone and just kind of show my appreciation for them as my neighbors. Being a farmer, I need to keep them all on my good side. And and my joke was that something about burning wood versus cutting it, or we were just all so sick of, we had this big bonfire and we were all just so sick of, cutting wood. But I have a whole stockpile of firewood going into this winter. Yeah.
And I understand you really like to split wood.
I love splitting wood.
Why do you love splitting wood?
I'm not going to get the quote right, but the Zen, is something where, there's a Zen. And I just heard, it's actually on the cover of the Country today, the value of firewood. And that's another Aldo Leopold quote where, the value of a family farm is to understand that food doesn't come from the store and heat doesn't come from the furnace. It's that, splitting wood's like the perfect amount of physical exertion, and it's just it's relaxing to me and physical and all of that. But it's that idea of the full circle of an appreciation for the trees and and that's why we, will plant, oak trees for the future because, when you're cutting them up and burning them, you're realizing the value of them. And if each one you take down and put in, you better be replacing that if you're going to be warm 30 years. And it's, I don't know, I kind of think of it, how it's a constant process where that I have to constantly kind of be stoking this fire. Is a kind of a mantra in life where, it's, you got to keep the fire burning.
So when are you going to offer a wood splitting class?
A wood splitting workshop?
Yes.
I still have a pile that needs to be split from that storm, but so I work with my neighbors, and the rule is that they can cut it and bring it, but no one splits it.
Oh, so there's no workshop coming because that's your job.
I know if that pile gets too low, then where will I find my Zen? But I've talked to a lot of other, I know that the sentiment with enjoying splitting wood is not one that I hold alone. I think a lot of people that do it also really enjoy it.
Didn't you also tell me, I don't know if it's Golden Sands, but somebody was offering a chainsaw workshop for women?
Yeah, that was a project that is just kind of a little blip on the radar right now, but it will probably be something that's moved forward. And I'm not 100% sure the details of that project, but I think it's a fantastic idea. So I will keep you posted, and maybe we can promote it through our page in our group.
And then part 2 is maybe wood splitting with Rachel.
Right. And I guess maybe that pile is pretty big. I could allow people to come out and split their wood, and then they can take whatever they would like with them. That could be kind of fun too. We could do it together. And I wouldn't mind that. I actually have a huge pile that I wouldn't mind seeing gone.
Okay, well, we'll put the call out for that. So can we wrap back around to your farm to talk about your business and Barista Family Farm and what it actually is that you offer? What can people get from you at your farm?
So I raise grass-fed beef, and we're organic just by the system. And then I sell in, quarters, and then I have a website. So I sell, all ground and steaks and roast. But this year has been kind of a struggle with increased customer demand and an incredible backlog with processors, which I kind of mentioned earlier. So a lot of my fellow farmers have had a hard time keeping stuff in stock, which is made for a lot of farmers to have one of their best years ever. But I fear at some times that we've missed this golden opportunity where we did have this increased demand as people went into the stores. There was a New York Times editorial that said the end of red meat was here, and I wrote a scathing rebuttal that was that it should be the end of industrialized food systems to it. And my rebuttal was that, this is a system that I know well, better than any New York Times op-ed writer. My cattle are British White Park, which is kind of a heritage breed, which is, I think, important too, to have some of these heritage breeds. And they're really cute, and anyone is always welcome to come out to the farm because I love walking around on my farm and petting my cows and sharing what I do with others.
So can you share what's your website?
It is Baressa Family Farm, so you can order online, but everything's out of stock right now. So, but I did just send a couple of animals in for processing this week. So,
okay.
So I will be restocked in a couple weeks, which will be nice. But in the meantime, I also am the coordinator of our local grazers network. So when people have reached out to me, I don't look at other farmers as competition. I think that everyone should eat grass-fed meat, and I know that I can't feed everyone. So I am always very happy to refer people to other farmers. And just same with vegetables and whatever else. Again, that's where I have joked the glomalin idea, connecting people and making those connections. So I always say if someone's looking for any sort of farm product, let me know. And I may not have it, but I can point you to someone that I know does and does a really good job at what they do. And that's why don't do chicken. I did chickens one year, and I realized I did like 200 meat chickens, and after that I realized I used to barter with Black Rabbit and Nami Moon Farms for their chicken. I would give them trade, again, this barter idea, and that they did chickens a lot better than I did, and then it kind of missed that chance to trade back and forth with them. So I said, well, let them do what they love and do well, and I'll do what I love and do well, and we'll just trade. So that's why I don't do chickens, and that's why I don't do pigs, because I know other people that do, and I like to support them.
And I love that you network with other farmers and realize that it's, not just about competition. There's so much opportunity for people like you to get involved and feed the community, because most of us get our food from the grocery store, and it comes from, may even be from overseas. It might be all over the world. If our local people would get behind our local farming community, we wouldn't be dealing with some of these issues of, distribution, places to, get our food, or some of the shortages that we were dealing with this spring, which I know are still there because your processing is kind of plugged up right now. But I feel like there's so much more opportunity for for smaller farmers to get involved and then maybe specialize in something if they have other friends that can help the consumers fulfill their needs for what they don't do, and they could all work together. So I love what you're sharing about that. And one of our goals, actually, or at least one of the things that I would like to see happening, is creating more of that relationship, and then making sure, like what you're offering, that more consumers are aware of the fact that they can get a hold of you and they can get referred to other people and other farms where they can find things that they're looking for that are better for them and are local.
Oh, and for my veggie growers, I've got that composted manure that is not of value to me. So that's I can trade and share that to vegetable growers that don't have a source otherwise.
Yeah, and that's been helpful for me. So thank you very much for. Is there anything else that you want to share?
I just really strongly believe in the value of this group and this Common Roots Rising, and I'm really excited to kind of keep this going and elevate the group and elevate our community. So yeah, I think this is and should be done in every community.
Well, Renewing the Countryside has, they have a local producers or local food network that they've created. And I don't know if anybody locally, right now we're focusing on the central Wisconsin region. Renewing the Countryside seems strong in southwestern Wisconsin, Minnesota, things like that. So I don't know that anybody's participating in that local foods program, that local food hub that they have, but I would love to see something like that happen in central Wisconsin.
Kind of what, and I just was at Farm Shed this week, and I think partnering maybe with Farm Shed, and we're going to be writing a grant through Farmers Union and Farm Shed, to do some of that stuff. So that could be a good partner ally group.
So over the last 2 weeks, the Tomorrow River Community Charter School has been conducting their holiday fair, and normally that event would happen on campus on one particular day, and everybody would come and get to see the campus. But what it is it supports all this local makers, and then there's a few food producers as well. Most of the some of the people that are involved with their kids in the school will come there, and of Gravel Road has been there, and White Feather Organics has been there. So this year they did it virtually, and it's a little bit sad that it had to be virtual, but there's additional benefits in that they actually created a website, and they've had people from throughout the region and beyond buying these things that we are locally producing. We participated this year with our herbal products, and so I'm encouraging that to continue to happen. Basically, it's like a maker fair, but it also could be in the food realm.
I was going to say, I think that sounds great. I think that we've been talking about consumers and buying from farmers, but things need to be it's 2020. Things need to be easy. Make it easy for people, and online ordering. I mean, my website and online ordering is huge. But I think having, it's almost like a mall. If you can get everything, from one platform and one shopping interface, I think that's awesome.
I think that is something that we could look at. We need to see if we can put the skills and the talents together to put something like that together, because it supports us, and then we can also use it to communicate and promote this idea of supporting local and make it easier for the consumer to connect with the farmer.
Yeah, finding customers especially when you're getting started as a farmer, having that, developing that, internet presence and that market and customer base can be really challenging, and takes a lot of energy and effort. I'm excited.
As a small family farmer, I think you're expected to wear every single hat in the world, and you are a business, and so a lot of what you have to do once you grow or raise or nurture whatever it is that you're taking care of on your farm, you have to figure out the market and what to do with that, and that's a whole nother skill. And you're supposed to wear all those hats as a farmer. It would be super helpful.
Yeah, if someone could help you, if we could work together to be better.
Yeah, and I know that exists. I know there's help and there's support, but there's probably not quite enough support, and and it's sometimes a little bit like maybe people don't know to ask or apply for. So there's a lot of this bridge of you're kind of small, and you're not sure if you're big enough to take on some of these programs or get some of this help, but maybe there's some bridging and gapping that, could be helpful, that could help get me with some of the ideas that I have over the hump of, oh yeah, I can actually turn this into something that makes sense, that I could then support myself on my own land, or at least partially support myself in a way that's realistic, with a little bit of support that, maybe I'm not sure I qualify for, or don't qualify for, I don't know how to jump over that bridge, or maybe I don't even have the time to. So, and I know, you work in this field, so maybe that it's good already, but I feel like I know that for me, I get busy in my own stuff, and then I don't realize what I need to go out and ask for help for.
What I would like to do, and I brought it up, well, this year we just couldn't do it, but, we do these pasture walks for grazers, which are so amazing, but other farms, for veggie farms or herb farm, I think having, farm walk series in the summer where you can go and you're not at the market where you're talking about whatever else because you're away from the farm, where you're actually on each other's farms, and other people in the community are always welcome to join and learn about. It's different conversations. I've learned you can't have a farmer-based and a citizen-based pasture walk because it's just different conversations and audiences. But utilizing each other as resources or being able to ask, that's where those conversations would come up. Is, are you doing this plan or this program? Or I always think there's just so much to learn from each other and being on each other's farms. And actually, there used to be a group that did that through Farmers Union. They were called the Farmer Hotshots, and we had monthly meetings. But that kind of fell to the wayside. But I think there's a lot of value to going out to each other's farms.
I think that sounds like a great idea. And I've done that a little. I came and visited you, and I've been out to Sarah Rivers at Primitive Pastures, although it took me 3 years to go do it. Finally went this fall. And when I went over to Whitefeather, Tony, Whitefeather, was very easy to talk to at the Winter Farm Market when we started visiting the Winter Farm Market, and I started sharing, hey, I want to do this herb farm thing. What are you doing? And so he said, yeah, come on out, and so he made that available to me, and I really appreciated that because it helped me get a sense of what he was actually doing.
Awesome. Yeah, there's some really fun people in our group, in our community.
Yeah.
Tony's one of those.
So thank you very much for joining us today. I see so much more potential in these conversations for the future to get more specific on some of the issues that you're passionate about and you care about and things that are going on, and to bring some other people in. So thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Mark. This was great.
Imaginal Roots with host Mark Gehrke is a podcast from Common Roots Rising. Through engaging conversations with creative leaders, we're exploring our community roots and connections as we imagine transformative new stories and culture into being.